Welcome into the Michigan State Hockey Hub as we have a returning guest. I think this might be the first returning guest. Off the top of my head, I think it is. Brad with the only colors. Brad, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I am great, Clay. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So we were talking before the show. I actually missed this weekend's games due to my mom's birthday out of town. So I was out of town celebrating her, and it doesn't look like I missed too much. Now, from what I heard and what I read was Michigan State actually played pretty well, especially on, I believe, Friday night. Um,
Specifically Friday night. Like it was just Friday night.
yeah, yeah. So Lewandowski returned to the lineup, and we'll talk about him in a moment. That's huge. I know it doesn't mean anything really at this point in the year, but just knowing that Lewandowski's career does not end with him on the injury list, we actually kind of, you know, have the idea of when we're going to see him last. So, I mean, that I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. Going into the scores, excuse me, Michigan State falls Friday night 2-1, and Saturday night 2-4. Game one, the goals, Eric Middendorf from Lewandowski and Tucker. I mean, right off the bat, even just looking at the score sheet, you love to see Lewandowski on there. Coming off of injury, I mean, he's just so important to this team. I don't know how anyone really and here's the thing. I was talking to somebody about this privately on Twitter, somebody who's well respected within college hockey. And my thing is, if the team is this reliant on one player, that's as big of an issue as missing that one player. Do you agree with that, Brad?
Yeah. I was just watching this video too. It's sort of unrelated. It's from like 4 years ago, but it was actually a video that kind of puts math into like the equation when it comes to luck or skill. And in regards to like hockey's like one of those sports that like requires the most luck. And I'm not saying that Michigan State is just getting unlucky, but like if you take a look at the NHL, right? Like Ovechkin is the Capitals like best player, right? Crosby is the Penguins best player. Like you look at these teams and like if you can't have a team where like Crosby is the only guy on the ice. Like that's not feasible, right? Like whereas in the NFL, for example, like Tom Brady is on every offensive play for, the Buccaneers or well, now retired, but you know what I mean, right? Like the QB is the main part. So if you have one player who is doing everything for you, then you don't have a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't like that is not again, it's just not feasible in hockey. It's not something you can do. And I've never seen, I don't think, a team this like I don't even bad teams win games, I guess is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And if you think about it, let's say top tier wing on the team or forward, 16 minutes a game, 18 minutes a game, something like that. They they play a lot more than that. Like
Right.
it's a 60-minute game. So yeah, you can only have so much effect on a game. I get what you're
Especially when
saying.
you're only out on the ice like 50 seconds at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But I was just glad to see Lewandowski back. Game two, goals. Davidson, who's been awesome, really a fun player. Assist Tucker and Middendorf, and then a goal by Middendorf. Assist Sasana and Tucker. Now, I feel like I've said Tucker 32 times already. He's definitely a fan favorite of the Michigan State Hockey Hub show here. Jesse Tucker. I just want to talk about him a little bit. That's the type of player Michigan State needs more of. Unselfish. He distributes the puck well, generates offense, is a lot craftier than a lot of players on this team. Just he sets up plays really well. 3 assists on the weekend. Just an awesome weekend to cap off a very productive year for Michigan State. And he didn't start in that top 6. He was kind of shifted up and down the lineup the first couple weeks. Moved to center. Believe he played in center in the Air Force game earlier in the year, then did not play center until I don't remember when, but a few weeks later. So, what did you think of Jesse Tucker's freshman year so far? Still 2 games left in the tournament.
So I think that, especially as of late, I think that Jesse Tucker is one of the like pros when it comes to this Michigan State program. Like, you talk about a 12-game losing streak, right? So like, and to end out the year could be 14, right? So like, all you're looking for is some progress towards next season. Like, all you're looking, you're not like Michigan State. The only thing like standings wise that they have, like, there's no tournament hopes. The only thing that they have standing wise to hope for at this point is not finishing in last place once again, right? Like, if they sweep Penn State, then like they're not in last place. And so when it comes to like just Jesse Tucker in general, I would be very happy with the way he's performed, especially with Lewandowski out. He's kind of almost sort of been on the incline when it comes to like offensive production. And I think that again, like you mentioned, him and Gucciardi, I think have been insane for Michigan State. Gucciardi he's a great defenseman, soft hands, like everything you're looking for. So with them too, I think that is kind of like, I think what I'm looking most forward to when it comes to like building this program. Yeah. And so again, like that's just that again, like all you're looking for is pros. And if you want that, Tucker and Gucciardi would be mine. Even though I will say something, he was kind of at fault to one of the goals against I can't remember if it was the first day or the second day, but he fell out of position and ended up causing a defensive or a score. So
now, Brad,
yeah,
you should know this as a returning guest. There is no Jesse Tucker slander at the Michigan State Hockey Hub. 0 allowed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's a freshman. It typically takes freshmen a while to kind of break through and start playing while catching up to the pace of the college game. I really like what I've seen. Now the question is, where does he go from here? Is he going to plateau like we've seen players in the past, and he's going to be this good for 4 years or whenever he leaves? Or is he going to take that next step? Is he going to develop into a even more gifted player? So that's something to watch for going forward. But as we look ahead to the season finale, it seems like, man, I was thinking about this. It seems like 30 years ago when I started to do this podcast and started to dive into MSU hockey. I wouldn't call what I do coverage as much as it is just a fan account. You all do the coverage. I kind of retweet your all stuff, rely on you all, and just kind of produce something into a microphone. But man, it feels like the season slowed down so much since the break. I guess that's what a 12-game losing streak does to you. But the final 2 games this season coming up at Munn-Ice Arena Friday at, I believe, 7 and 6 o'clock on Saturday against Penn State. Michigan State sits at 11, 20, and 1. Penn State 14, 17, and 1. And up until this losing streak, Michigan State was ahead of Penn State in the standings. Penn State was kind of at the bottom with Wisconsin. They've moved up. I guess you technically, yes, but it's really more Michigan State moving down. Penn State is a weird team. Since they came into the Big Ten and kind of started their hockey program, they've kind of been up and down. They've shown to be really good at times. Their kind of strategies, let's see how many pucks on net we can get.
Well, and I've never been able to figure them out either, too, because when I first started, like, getting on to like sort of the hockey, this hockey thing with Michigan State, because I didn't start off the season covering them, but Michigan State series against Penn State was one of the very first that I watched. And I haven't, again, since then, I have not been able to figure this out. And I haven't been covering Penn State, obviously, like very immensely, but or looking at them, I guess, in depth. But they are a weird team. And specifically because they're a hard team to beat, but they're not like, they're still in the back. Like if again, they're at sixth place. There's 7 Big Ten teams. They're in sixth place in the Big Ten. So that's obviously not impressive. But you watch them and they're like doing some things well. And again, I haven't watched them all year, but just those 2 games against Michigan State, which Michigan State split. Right? I think they won the last one 4-3. They lost the first one. But again, they're a weird team. They play hard. They play, it's tough to beat them, but a lot of teams have been able to do that. It might just come down to talent with, Michigan, Minnesota, etc. being a hard schedule.
Yeah, and and I mentioned this earlier, it's not exactly a ton to take away from these 2 games. There's not much they can do, but they can do one thing. They can jump up ahead of Penn State and not finish in last. Michigan State right now last in the Big Ten, 14 total points. Penn State right ahead of them with 17 points. So theoretically, they can move ahead and not finish in last place. In terms of what you're looking for this weekend, what are some things that you might be looking for in terms of takeaways? And obviously, with this being kind of the end of the year before the Big Ten tournament, I'm not saying stuff to build on for this year. I'm saying what might you be looking for? For instance, okay, is Jesse Tucker really somebody who could step up and even produce more next year? What are a few things that you're going to watch for?
So, yeah, I mean, you're right. There's not much. Again, like it's the last game of the season. There's not much you can do. It's not like it's pro where you're looking for some draft stock or something like that. The only thing, again, just the young people. I think that like the young players like and there have been some young players stepping up. Like I mentioned, David Gucciardi's been great at times, especially for a streak. He had the overtime game winner against Michigan Tech. Has looked really, really good at, in a lot of games, and he's just a freshman. But again, Gucciardi has been kind of one of my favorite players to watch this season. However, again, he had a bad game. I'm not going to lie. Didn't look great. I think it was the last game. It was, what was it, on Saturday, where he had, I had written down somewhere, where it was the first period. Yeah, 7 minutes in the first period. Notre Dame's other freshman, Justin Janik, had put Notre Dame, was their first goal, and David Gucciardi was like way back towards the blue line. I don't know like how the hell he got there, but that again was a blown play, right? Like you don't want that to happen. Like I don't want like mistakes like that to happen. And I mean, again, there are certain things that you could look for too, like Lewandowski's been great this season, obviously being the leading scorer, but Eric Mittendorf has been big for Michigan State in the moments where Lewandowski's been out, and he's only a junior, right? So theoretically, he could come back next season. So he's been stepping up. And there are a lot of other players that have, I'm just looking for something where it's like no mistakes, no, some young players, being in, maybe the right place at the right time. Scoring more than Penn State would be nice, to see, not having DeRitter or Charleston face 50 shots in a game. That'd be great, which they did, by the way, against Notre Dame. They did outshoot them one of those games, which was very surprising to see, even though they had just outshot Ohio State a couple weeks ago. But just to see something where there's no mistakes, no, costly turnovers, or, someone missing their assignment, or just honestly, it's been a lot of stupid things. Like 12 games is a lot to lose. Part of that is due to the Wisconsin series. Like that was easily 2 games that they could have either won one of them at least. And so I don't know. I would just look for, again, no mistakes, and hopefully a win would be nice for to close out the season.
Yeah, a couple things I want to see. I want to see more Pal Connor. I don't know why. I just really like his game. He did so. I did not watch the games this weekend. I did watch they're about 5.5 minutes, 6 minute kind of extended highlights Big Ten puts out. And Pal Connor did have a defensive assignment mix up with, I believe, Cole Krieger, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that, I just like what I've seen from him. He hasn't got a ton of ice time. He's definitely playing a little bit more now. He's kind of done the extra skater thing at times as well. I wouldn't mind seeing some more of him. I also want to see some more Josh Nottler. He just really fell off in the second half this year. I just think it would be great if you could see him get on the, tally a goal or something. I just want to see a couple of these players go out of this season before the tournament with some confidence. 12 in a row is really difficult. And I'm not in the locker room, so I'm not going to act like I know what's going on there. But I mean, I've been in a locker room before. We've all been on sports teams. If you lose 12 straight, it's difficult. It's really difficult. So this weekend, I'd love to just see a couple players make some plays, score some goals that can boost their confidence going into the offseason. And I mean, we have to see the losing streak come to an end. This is the shot. Having Penn State second to last right ahead of you at the end of the year, this is your chance. But before we head out, this is senior night on Saturday. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to list off the seniors here, and Brad and I are just going to go back and forth and kind of whatever we have to say about these seniors, a memory, what we like about them. I mean, really anything. It's just kind of an open floor. I do plan on doing a senior podcast where I cover all these a little bit more in depth. I definitely wanted to get your opinion on them. The seniors, for those of you who do not know, Adam Goodsir, Chris Berger, Mitchell Lewandowski, Griffin Lochran, Mitchell Madsen, and Drew DeRitter. I will put an asterisk here and say I do not know the status of any of the COVID years coming back, any of that. I'm just going off college hockey news eligibility here. And we will not touch on Chris Berger. He was a transfer who did not play this year. So out of those seniors, do you have a favorite, Brad, that you've had a chance to watch since you started covering the team?
So as much as Lewandowski's been so important for this team, I mean, we knew even because he had an injury earlier in the season, right? Where he was it the same injury where he had, because he was out for 5 games, right?
Yeah.
Michigan State was 1-4 without him. They come back and now they were 0-4 or 0-10 during the 10 games that he was out after that. Lewandowski's been great. But I will say that I've been impressed with DeRitter a little bit more. DeRitter has shown that he could be like goaltender of the year, like all hands down, right? There have been a couple other goalies around the league, especially Jack LaFontaine. His replacement, I should say, for Minnesota, I can't remember the dude's name, forgive me, but I know he's been impressive. He just got added to the list or whatever. But anyway, DeRitter's been impressive because, like, I think just after the season that he had last year, a lot of people were very happy for him, and he's played like the best hockey of his career. He's slowed down a little bit, but again, once you get to a point where your defense is kind of like leaving some holes in it, it's kind of hard. Like Pierce Charleston has been great too. He's been kind of on a little tiny little hot streak. Seems like that's kind of the way it goes though with these two goaltenders a little bit. Like DeRitter kind of slowed down near the end of the season last year, and then Charleston had a little bit of a hot streak. And I know that there was some talk about kind of tandeming them up, even though Charleston was just a freshman. But but DeRitter's been my favorite to watch this season as far as seniors go. Just because, again, like everyone loves to root for the goalie. They face all the shots, and he's been so impressive.
Yeah. Lewandowski and DeRitter are both guys who are going to get paid money to play hockey after they leave MSU. Lewandowski has had such an interesting career with Michigan State. He came in KHL line with so much success, and it was Hiroshi, Kodorenko, and Lewandowski, and they were like putting up records. That was awesome. Kind of slumped a little bit, had up and downs, injuries, scoring droughts. He's just a great player, and from all reports, a great person too. I was really glad he came back this year. Obviously, MSU needed him. Drew DeRitter, I mean, that guy, he's incredible. And he hasn't always had the best team around him. In fact, he hasn't had a good team around him in his years here. I remember when he was coming up and in juniors, just like hearing about him. I don't remember. For whatever reason, my mind tells me he played a game against like Colorado College before he was in college, and was incredible. It was against a college team, and I was just like, man, I'm excited for this guy. And Jeremy Dewar and I were talking about him, so kind of seeing from before he came all the way through now, it's been a really great story. Adam Goodsir, for those of you who missed it in this week's news, a young hockey player challenged him to rock, paper, scissors. I'm sure you saw this, Brad. A young hockey player.
Sorry, my mic was muted.
Oh no. Yeah. So a young hockey player in the stands had a sign, Adam, Rob, play me in rock, paper, scissors. If I win, being the fan, you have to come to my game tomorrow. Goodsir loses, I assume, because he did. He followed up and went to the kids' game, gave him some MSU swag, a stick. So that's awesome. And Adam Goodsir has been a solid player. He's not lighting up the score sheet, and at times I've been kind of hard on him, but he does play a role. He scored, was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago, I believe, against Wisconsin, if I'm remembering right. So, yeah, he's had a pretty decent career. Griffin Lochran brought in this year, and he started off hot. He looked like he was going to, potentially add some depth scoring. Hasn't played really, and
it's kind of a shame that because what did he isn't he out with something?
Yeah, he's not going to be able to play. But Mitchell Madsen, this is a guy, his hockey career really was crazy. I mean, drafted, was committed to North Dakota, looked like he was going to be on a big stage, and it didn't work out for him there. He did not actually go to North Dakota, came to Michigan State, has been in and out of the lineup, fourth line guy. But that does not seem to bother him. I mean, he's out there every day working hard. Anytime you see him in the game, he's, giving 110%. I've always been a Mitchell Madsen fan and a solid fourth line role as well. So that definitely stick taps to these seniors, and I'm looking forward to seeing them kind of move on to better things. But wait up. Now that I'm thinking about this, we're missing like 3 different seniors here. I totally forgot to put in. I'm doing this on the fly, guys. I'm not even going to edit this, but we forgot to put in the defense. So I'm just going to say them real quick. If this isn't quality podcasting, I don't know what is. We'll probably have like 4 people listening after they hear me just totally forget. But Dennis Sasana, of course, and the Krieger Twins. So we can touch on them real quick, Brad. Sorry about that. Just a complete brain fart on my end. And Brad's muted. This is great podcasting, guys.
Oh my God. It kind of sucks because like now that I mentioned it, I'm like, how did you forget the Krieger brothers? Because like I didn't even notice at first. Like, no offense, to them or whatever, but it just flew right over my head.
Well, I looked at the roster. Full disclosure, I did this last thing. I thought about it And this is why I'll do a whole podcast on it. But I saw this right before we came on, typed in these numbers, and only looked at the forwards and just had Dorito on top of my mind and hit go. So, all right, let's just act like we're grouping them differently. So now we're going to go to the defense. Dennis Sasana has been awesome. He's come in and he'll make money playing hockey somewhere at some level after he leaves MSU.
Well,
I've really been
and with the defense too, the nice thing about Sasana, and I mean even like sometimes like whether it was Christian or Cole Krieger, like the defense has made a lot of the scoring for Michigan State, right? Like that has been, just with Michigan State's lack of any offensive creativity, they've kind of been that line of defense. Get it? Literally. But they've been that like sort of offense that Michigan State has sort of needed from the blue line or the top of the circle or whatever it was. It was it seems to I think it was against Penn State at one point that Michigan State's like half their points came from the defense. And so again, like Sasana's been a big part of that. I've been a big Sasana fan too. Every time, like I'm watching him, every time that they're out there, I'm watching him play. So,
yeah, and the Krieger Twins, they were drafted 7th round, almost just a couple picks apart. They've had their moments. They have both been frustrating at times and both really solid at times. Either way, at the end of the day, MSU's losing 3 of their 6 D-men, so there's going to be, opportunities next year for someone to step up. Matt Basgall, I think, is the incoming freshman who I just keep seeing good report after good report on. So that's definitely something to look forward to. All right, now after that blooper, and as we wrap up here, I want to give Brad an opportunity. First, I want Brad to give an opportunity to talk about his podcast, which he was nice enough to invite me on, and I listened to the entire thing before coming on, and it's awesome. If you just like sports in general, he covers it all. And so I'm going to give him an opportunity to talk about his podcast. And I noticed Brad putting out a little bit of Michigan State baseball tweets here and there. So I want him to touch on that too. As a baseball fan myself, Michigan State baseball has less coverage and attention than Michigan State hockey. Even.
Nobody covers college baseball, but college baseball I love. Like it is second to like hockey. Like college baseball, I should say college baseball and softball. I am a big fan of.
Yeah, and I'm a huge baseball fan. And those who don't know, I write for a baseball website called Just Baseball, and they do a ton of. They just started last year. And they are doing a ton of college baseball. They have podcasts about it. They have, articles, people who write just about college baseball. So if you're interested in college baseball, justbaseball.com will help you a little bit. If you're interested in Michigan State baseball, Brad, can you help us out some this year with Michigan State baseball? Tell us what the role is.
Yeah. So it's exciting. So last year, what happened with the Only Colors was Paul, who I think his last name is Paul Fanzen. He also writes for the Only Colors. He does a lot more like basketball coverage. Now, basketball for me is like not my realm. Like I am not like a big basketball guy, which is great because if you're at a school like Michigan State, for example, where basketball is kind of like second tier coverage.
Be careful. Don't say it's the number one sport. There's always arguments between basketball and football.
I'm well aware. And that's the thing, right? Like Michigan State's basketball team for like the last 2 decades has been incredible, right? Like there's, whereas like with Michigan, like basketball is sort of the number 2. At times, Michigan State basketball, especially over the last 5 years, like Michigan State basketball has been number 1, right? And so that's kind of nice to have that opportunity to cover some of these like smaller sports that while everyone else on the team is going out and struggling to do whatever with basketball, and so anyway, baseball is, I guess we're tag teaming it, I guess, if I'm going to put it the best way I could put it. Paul did a lot of like recaps and previews last year. This year it's kind of we're kind of going like between each other, but it's exciting. It's exciting. They just beat UNLV, swept them, or not swept them. I'm sorry, they won the series. They are 3-1 now. Go to Abilene Christian, and so it's exciting. And college baseball's always been kind of like this. I don't know. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but if there's no MLB season, then who knows what's going to happen. And Michigan State has there's some signs that their team is actually pretty good this year. I'm not like 100%, but they played UNLV. They're gritty, like very gritty win that last game.
I hate to put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
Considering there's only been 1 weekend of coverage, you may not know every player's name. But
No.
I think I remember a player. I watched a little bit last year. Zaire Walker or
Zaid Walker, I think is his. I can't remember.
Yeah,
is it Zaid?
That player was electric. I remember watching him a little bit.
So I think he hit a home run against UNLV. I'm just off the top of my head. I did not prepare to talk about baseball.
My gripe with it is it's hard to follow because sometimes games are at weird times, but not only that, there's really little way to watch it. I saw a stream posted by Sarge, I think it was, an MSU Twitter guy who a lot of people probably know. It was like UNLV had it on their YouTube page, so I watched some of it. Great.
Yeah.
Other than that, like there's times I paid for Big Ten Plus to get the baseball last year, and it's just like a view from like the score.
Yeah.
Like you can't see anything. There's nothing. Like it's terrible. You can't tell what's happening. Best chance, I guess, is to catch the games when Scott Moore, who also does the play-by-play for the hockey, is doing the play-by-play for the baseball as well. But before we get out of here, I want you to touch on your podcast, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so I host a podcast every week, actually doing it tomorrow. It's live on YouTube now. The one that we did, was that live?
I do not believe so. No.
Okay, well now I got a live podcast. So every week we do a live episode 7:30 to 9. It's very exciting stuff. It's live on YouTube, as you know. It's great produced though too. It's my $40 software gets me very far away. But it's great, and we talk about all kinds of sports, mainly football and baseball, and then we've touched on hockey before, mainly the Red Wings, but we're both from Michigan, and so it's all Michigan sports. And Griff is he's the co-host. He's a Michigan fan, and I am I live in East Lansing, so cover Michigan State. And so we kind of go back and forth on stuff like that, but we're both like, reasonable people who love to argue. So that is, Griff and I love to argue. We were just arguing yesterday over text about why I think that induction cooktops are better than gas ranges. So we have a lot not in common, if you catch my drift.
Wow.
So
well, yeah, so check out his podcast. You can find all of that on his Twitter page as well. One last question. Yeah. No explanation needed, just over under. Assuming a full baseball, 162 games, over under 91 wins for your New York Mets.
Over under
91 wins. I don't even know if that's the number. I just made that up.
I gotta take the under.
Okay, well that's it. You heard Brad say it. The Mets are going to win 36 games this year and win
I'm sure.
Lose 130 or whatever. But thanks again, Brad, for joining us. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and go green.